I mean, you mentioned Libertines, and obviously taken many iconic photos of them. Like, what your early memories of being around them kind of thing, or how did you first hear about them?
First heard about it, I'd moved out of London. One of the many times that I'd considered quitting the business, and I'd moved out of London, and a friend of mine who's the press officer said, "Look, I've got this. I think I'm going to be working with this really good band. Come and see them." And I was like, "Oh, fuck, all right." So I would live quite far out, so I drove in like about an hour and a half. Drove into London uh, to Cherry Jam where they were playing, and I don't think they'd been signed yet. They were just about to be signed, and it was exciting. It was genuinely. It was really shambolic, but it was really exciting and a little bit frightening, which is kind of ticks boxes for me with bands.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of jumped on the roller coaster and just to see where it went.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you were there throughout the whole journey, really.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to get your take on things. Like how quickly did things get a bit fraught and a bit dark, do you think?
I'd say it was really good, positive. Well, it seemed to me anyway, really good, positive fun until the first Up the Bracket tour. And I remember we were coming back from God. You may know better than me on this, but I'm pretty sure we were coming back from Birmingham or Manchester, and Peter just got off the bus, and he was supposed to get back on and didn't, and then nobody saw him again, and that just seemed odd to me. Above and beyond, wanting to do drugs or anything like that. I think looking back now, it's easy to see in hindsight, but I think it was probably like a mental health issue, really. Because I know now that he gets really stressed about shows, and I think if there are too many shows in a row, it's not good for him. And I think it's probably like most of the things in our lives, when if that's the way you are when you're younger, it's probably going to be the same when it's probably going to be true when you're older as well. So I think it's probably that. I think the drugs were a crutch for that more than anything else.
Hmm. And you say like you're traveling with them and stuff. So I guess, I've talked to other photographers who said it's a lot of it's about building relationships with bands and people. Were you able to, like, I don't know, build a good relationship with them from the off type thing?
Pretty much, yeah. There was a bit of a kind of baptism of fire initially. We'd go out quite a lot in London, and I'd end up back at the Albion Rooms, and I was a bit older than them, but they they kind of treated me like one of the gang, and it was, yeah, there was a bit of kind of one-upmanship all the time, about staying up. Oh no, you've got to come out, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to stay out late. Um, yeah, almost like a kind of initiation into a gang or something.
Did it indie pass with flying colours type thing?
Yeah, I've never been known to let people down in that department.
Okay, well, if you look at like cover photographs, then
Yeah.
just interested because obviously you've done some iconic Libertines ones, and I was reading one you did with Fatboy Slim. Maybe it wasn't a cover photo, but
It was
somewhere you'd
from a
get
cover
direction.
band.
Okay, right. Somewhere you'd get like a lot of direction, and I imagine with Libertines, it's more down to you, maybe.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, with them, it was it was such a victory just to get the four of them in the same place for any stretch of time. I mean, even the first session we did, Peter and Cole turned up like 2 hours late. Actually, no, the first session we did, they turned up 5 or 6 hours late to their own house, which is pretty spectacular. So it kind of set the standard for going forwards. So yeah, I mean, I always tended to work quite quickly anyway. In my previous life, I did a lot of rap and hip hop acts who don't, they're huge and don't give you a lot of time. So I was quite used to working quickly, and so it would, it would have been nice to be a lot more studious about working with them, but it just doesn't work like that. Not, yeah, not in my experience anyway. So they, they were. That being said, they were quite self-aware, and Peter and Carl have always been quite fashion oriented. But it would come together sometimes really like a scattergun. So they needed someone to kind of, make it work together, rather than look like four people from different bands.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen quotes from Pete saying he would literally dress the band. Like, he told them all to wear leather jackets and stuff like that.
Yeah. Before I was involved, they basically copied the Strokes.
Yeah.
And but it was a wise move, and their homage to the Strokes was on a few levels, but it was very much with their own take and a very big sense of Britishness about it. So I think the two coexist really nicely together.
No, yeah, definitely they pulled it off for sure. Is that a band you've worked with before?
I shot them live a few times, met them a few times, and I shot them for the NME cover for the Brat Awards. That it was the Strokes with Kylie Minogue.
Oh, okay, interesting. Which is your favourite Libertines cover out of interest? Do you have one?
Probably from the second album, just because it was such a rigmarole to get it all together. Literally camping outside Peter's flat for 4 hours, knocking on his door, trying to get him to approve it.
Yeah, fair. And then moving into album covers, then obviously the famous second album cover at the Tap and Tin. Did you expect that to be as iconic as it was?
No, not at all. I mean, I knew that there'd be something quite good that would come out of it, but not not anything like that.
Yeah. And what are your memories of that night, really? Obviously, it's gone down in folklore kind of thing.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, it was incredible. It was really emotional. I'd gone to the prison with Carl in the morning to meet Peter, and then just left them to their own devices for a few hours. Carl was horribly drunk by the time I met up with him later. I think because of the nerves and everything, he'd just been drinking all day, and yeah, it was one of the best shows I've ever been to, without a doubt. Just so joyful.
Yeah. We spoke to Dean Fragile recently about the gig, and it's interesting because I was asking him about early Baby Shambles, and you've posted some recent pictures from early Baby Shambles gigs.
Yeah.
And he was kind of he was mixed about that whole time. He says it was like he doesn't look back on it massively fondly. He wanted the Libertines to stay together. Like, what do you remember from that time?
Well, yeah, I mean, it obviously everyone wanted them to stay together, but the circumstances were so terrible. I mean, everything that happened was just diabolical, really. And the reactions to it were diabolical. And for them to have stayed together under those circumstances would have been catastrophic. So it was the lesser of many evils, the band splitting up and forming other bands, and at least they're still alive. Just about.
Yeah.